My name's Cody Smith.
I'm Tierra Penner.
Hi there, I'm Tim Ocampo.
And the three of us are the hosts of the Last Podbender. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of The Last Podbender. In this episode, we are taking a look, like I said, at episode 4 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this episode is entitled The Warriors of Kyoshi. So basically, in this episode, Aang and gang...
Gang.
The Aang gang come to the Kyoshi Island, where they learn that is the home of one of the previous avatars, Avatar Kyoshi. They meet the warriors of Kyoshi. The Fire Nation attacks, and Aang and gang, the Aang gang, make a speedy retreat, but not before saving the village from destruction. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm Coyote.
You're Kyoshi.
I'm Coyote Smith.
I'm Tierra Penner.
Ugh, not good.
I'm Tomomo Ocampo.
Oh, Tim's was way better than you.
Tiapa. Tiapa Penner.
Tiatara.
Cool. So I guess what are your guys' kind of preliminary thoughts on the Warriors of Kyoshi?
Oh, I have some thoughts.
Let's hear them, T.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I think this is the first time Aang likes being the Avatar.
Oh yeah.
We never see him he never like really complains, but he doesn't like being the Avatar before this episode.
Right, yeah.
And so, I don't know, that was the first thing I thought when I saw him, was like, I'm the Avatar! And he's all, like, proud about it. And I'm like, whoa, that's some growth. Because he did not want to be the Avatar.
I mean, it's the first time that he kind of receives recognition or, like, joy from other people for him being the Avatar, maybe.
Yeah, it's like the time it won't blow up, and it didn't blow up in his face immediately.
Yeah.
That's so good. Like, it actually helped him get out of trouble, which must be so different. It's so different from his experience so far.
Yeah. I must say that I like how they kind of set this episode up with Sokka. You know, they're riding on Appa, and Katara's sewing Sokka's pants, and he's being, you know, a sexist dude about it, and Katara's not paying attention to Aang and stuff, and that it kind of sets up the entire episode so beautifully.
Yeah.
Because we see, obviously, you know, Sokka's like, oh man, girls don't fight or whatever, and then he ends up getting bested by the warriors of Kyoshi, who are these like warrior women on the island of Kyoshi, and he ends up learning from one of them, and then same with Aang and Katara. Like, Aang is so much seeking Katara's approval, and she like won't pay attention to him at the start, but then like towards the end he gets a hug from Katara, and you just see his like face light up.
I think also, like I said in the last episode, like Katara is in this episode as well, like very much acting like a mother figure and not a friend, and I think Aang wants her as a friend. And I think that's why he's really seeking her attention, because up to this point she's been acting very much like a parental figure. Like, we need to do this, we need to stock up on food, we need to get out of here, blah 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 blah. And she's been taking control, where Aang just wants somebody to hang out with.
Yeah, and that's also interesting, like comparing it to the early episodes. It's like I've had a few discussions with people. It's like sometimes we feel so confined to a role, instead of like sometimes it's easier to be sometimes we feel more accepted by people when we feel like we operate as a role instead of who we are as people. And I think we've seen that Katara is so used to fulfilling the role of that motherly figure, which she was kind of cornered into it from such a young age. And what's so interesting about Aang and Katara's relationship from the very beginning is that yes, it's important to be responsible, and like Aang needs to do some growing up as well. But he never had that lens of looking at Katara as a motherly figure. It was like immediately his first question was, "Do you want to go penguin sledding with me?" And that's something you do with friends, really. So I think it's a very refreshing. It can be a very refreshing relationship for Katara, and I think we're kind of coming to the like them coming into conflict in this episode is kind of seeing if they're still accepted as their roles or as who they are as people. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that this is the first time that we do see Aang come into conflict with anybody, really. Like in
interpersonally,
interpersonal conflict like that, right? It's mostly just been kind of conflict within himself up until now and up until this point, but he actually has, especially with, his new family. This is the first time we see any sort of conflict with his new family.
Yeah, and I think that it's healthy for Aang, because I don't know if he had a lot of conflict in his life growing up with the monks. And so I think that it's healthy for him to, like, confront this conflict.
Yeah.
And the way he does it maybe is pretty childish, but I do like that when it's resolved, he seems like he's learned from it.
Yeah, he said he was sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
And they both apologize, actually, which is
healthy in a good relationship.
Yeah, but I agree, and he treats conflict at first like I feel like any 12-year-old person would treat conflict in that way. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad you're glad.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to pay attention to me? I'm gonna go do this very stupid thing.
What I find so fascinating is that, like, I think maybe Aang is still kind of at this point of questioning, oh, hey, like, this person isn't able to pay attention to me. Do they really want to be around me, or will they actually be there for me when I need? And that scene was so great when they were waiting for the unagi, and all his fangirls faded away because they got bored. They got bored with his identity as the airbending avatar. But we got to see that Katara was there when it really mattered, when his life was in danger, and also because she genuinely cared about Aang's well-being. And also, like, how low-key and, like, casual, and I wonder if they ever discussed it in the future, be like, she out here just saving his life like it ain't no thing. It's like, oh yeah, like, she did, like, because I have friends, right? I know some people who are like, as soon as they help you in some way, they're, like, all about, like, rubbing into your face, like, oh yeah, by the way, like, I saved your life. It was like, oh, okay, thanks. So it's so funny just seeing just, like, that intuitive unspoken connection. It was like Katara did not save Aang, 1, from being eaten by an unagi, and 2, from drowning because she had to waterbend the water out of his lungs for the sake of glory, but just for the sake from a genuine caring place, and that's so beautiful.
I think it also ties into the last episode too, when she's like, we're family. Like, family doesn't save like another family member's life just to be like, yo, I saved your life. Like, they do it because they care about you, and they're like, man, like, I don't know, maybe I've never saved my brother's lives, but I've definitely put their life in jeopardy and then taken them out of jeopardy. And like, I never rubbed it into their faces, right? It was just something I did.
You never rubbed it into their faces? I could have killed you.
No, okay, that's not what I meant. I just meant, like, we played very rough, and Trevor's head ran into a lot of things when he was younger. And we always took care of him whenever he cried.
At the end of the day, you care.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love, this is such a great, I love it because it's the deterioration of Chad Sokka.
Yes.
And, toxic Chad Sokka. Not all Chads are bad, but yeah, he's just had such a specific view of gender roles and what a warrior looks like, and at the end of the day, like, he respected them for who they are and what they were capable of, and who they were and what they were capable of at the end of the day were people who could kick his ass. Like, it didn't matter what they were dressed like or who they were.
I liked that they showed that conflict within himself. Like, he went and he got his ass handed to him, and he said some, like, pretty mean things.
Yeah.
And then you see him, and he's just, like, kind of pacing outside, and he's like, I feel like I could see into his head, and he's just like, I want to learn how to be a warrior. I can't believe these girls beat me. And you could just see the conflict, like, oh, they're girls, but they're really good warriors. But they're girls, but they're really good warriors. And I think that side of him that is more mature kind of won over and was just like, I need to learn. And these guys are amazing. These girls are amazing. So I'm going to go and just ask for their help. And I think that was like probably one of the most mature moments we see of Sokka up to this point.
It's also the first time that we kind of see Sokka as a competent fighter. All the episodes up until now, he's just been kind of blundering around, filled with like cockiness and like over-exaggerated
belief in his ability.
Yeah. But it's the first time, like, after he gets trained by the Kyoshi warriors, and he kind of takes on Zuko a little bit, or at least he, like, deflects his fire or whatever. It's the first time that Sokka has done anything competent. I feel. So.
Well, like, he bombed him on the head on the first episode.
Yeah, that's not like, he was hanging from a thing already.
I know. He didn't put him there or anything. But yeah, like, I think that's true. I think that Sokka, I feel like this is the first step of Warrior Sokka. Like, yes, he's always been a warrior, but I think that this is the first step of Warrior Sokka where he goes and he learns from people.
Yeah. I love the way the Kyoshi warriors just move. Just like, they're just like gliding around and just like, it's just so graceful. And like, though, I don't know, just the way they throw their fans too. It's just like, you just knock someone out. I don't even know how, but it was like so good.
It's kind of interesting because Avatar Kyoshi was an earthbender, but with the Kyoshi warriors, you see a lot of airbending type and like water bending actually kind of moves in there. It's
using
not
their energy against
it's
them.
not like it's not very solid. It's more flowy, like a waterbender might be or something like that, which is kind of interesting.
And I think that a lot of the reason is like, yes, Kyoshi, we see later that she has big feet and that she's very strong and powerful. But I think that as a woman, you can't always use strength. Sometimes you need to use your opponent's strength against them. And I think that as a woman, she would have realized this and taught her followers how to protect themselves in the best way that they could.
That's awesome.
It actually kind of got me, I mean, this is a character that we won't see for a little bit, but it got me thinking about Toph a little bit, because I was just thinking, is like, is there really any women earthbenders, but like the most prominent earthbender in the show is a woman? Like, and it's just kind of interesting how like I don't know if that was like a conscious choice on their part or anything, but yeah, I find that very interesting because like earthbending feels very masculine to me,
where like waterbender feels maybe more
a bit more feminine. So
that's so cool. I think originally from what I read, they had the name Toph, like they were solid about that being part of the character, but they were originally bouncing around the idea that of Toph being a male and older as well. So I think it was Joaquim Dos Phoenix, one of the creative directors. He was like, no, let's like think about this, and it's like a little girl, a young woman
who's blind.
Who's blind. So, and I'm so glad that we have the Toph that we have now. But yeah.
Oh, seriously, she's so iconic. She's one of my favorite characters. I love her so much.
You don't know how badly I wish I could just close my eyes and know where everything is. It's like, oh, I love recon abilities. Oh my gosh. I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think from what I read about the lore and also what I've heard about some of the comics about Avatar Kyoshi, she was born an earthbender, and typically, the Avatar struggles with their opposite elements. I read that she chose the fans to help her enhance her airbending because it was not very inherent for her. So it was something to help her manipulate air a little bit more accurately.
And we see that when Aang picks up the fans.
Oh, I love that. It's just like force grabbed the fans. It was like whoosh.
And maybe also that is why the Kyoshi warriors tend towards that more flowy movement too.
Because it works better with the fans.
But that's that. I know that's totally interesting. When Aang picks up the fans, it's just like it's like such like a
or blow Zuko right through the house.
It's the first time that you see Aang be like super powerful too. That was a powerful
without the
Avatar state. Yeah, that was all Aang just throwing an airbending move straight into Zuko's face and blowing him through that house.
Yeah. And I love. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I really want to comment on like as soon as he does that move, he's like it's like this look of like disappointment crosses his face or like anxiety or something. He's just like it's like he didn't mean to hit Zuko as hard as he did or something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Or like, even like I felt like maybe he was upset that he was destroying somebody else's home.
That's fair too.
And then he like flies up and he sees the destruction of all the other homes and you see him just like he's like, shit, this is not what I want for these people.
He's just looking at his hands. Did these hands cause this destruction? But yeah, I love just some of the so much movement is like so beautiful, and you really do see them just stepping it up every episode in terms of the detail of the characters' mannerisms and movement. We see a lot more B-Boy Zuko. Hey, what's up? B-Boy Firelord with his literal and figurative flares. I think that was the name of the B-Boy movement. And also when Aang struck with the two fans, I'm not sure if that was a butterfly kick or a B twist or something, but it was beautiful. So I was like, big fanboy energy. I love it. Yeah. I hope to see more of the Kyoshi Warriors in the future, and I think we know that we do. Sorry, spoilers.
We do.
Another fun fact, I actually read that Avatar Kyoshi was the one who ends up training the Dai Li, which is so interesting.
That makes so much sense, though. Because the Dai Li, I know that they use earthbending, but they basically use airbending.
Like their movement is so smooth and flowy, and just it's so like unique to them as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they
capture people so easily.
Yeah. So I guess Kyoshi just loves starting like really elite badass groups.
Let me teach you how to protect yourself in a completely random, unorthodox way.
I also really like this episode because I think it's the first time that we see non-bending warriors who are actually competent against benders.
Wow, that's so important.
Yeah, it's like everything up until now, it's been all about the bending, and it's like no non-bending warriors have really been competent against the Fire Nation or anything like that. But the Kyoshi warriors are definitely they give the Firebenders a run for their money for sure.
I'm trying to think, and I don't actually think that any other warriors take on benders as well as the Kyoshi warriors. Like we see no other non-benders take on Fire Nation. I will
just fight against that a little bit. The guy, I forget his name, but the guy who trains Sokka with the sword, he's not a bender, and he takes on benders all the time, doesn't he? He's like what? I
don't think we see him ever take on a bender.
He's like part of the
White Lotus.
The White Lotus.
When they reclaim Ba Sing Se.
Yes. Okay, you're right.
He goes and beats a badass with his sword in Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, you're right.
I love that, and I think that's so important to. I think that's beautiful. Like for fleshing out the world, is like having bending is a blessing, but it's not that's not something everybody gets. And to also show that like just because you don't have that blessing doesn't mean you're defenseless or just going to be pushed around by the people who have power. It's I think that's like the essence of like of being a Kyoshi warrior, of like being able to take using your opponent's strengths against them, and being able to have honor and bravery about it as well. Like you're not worth any less as a human being just because you don't have this blessing. It's so cool.
Yeah. Another thing I really like, because I'm a huge fangirl, is Suki.
I love Suki.
And Sokka. I love them so much. They're so cute.
Oh my gosh, this is spoilers, but Sokka gets 2 bays in 1 season. Come on.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I really do like the moment when Sokka kind of humbles himself in front of Suki, and he like bows down. He's like, "You are the superior warrior. Please teach me," you know? And I think it's such like the start of, the growth that we see in Sokka for sure.
Yeah.
And actually that's such an important characteristic for him, because more spoilers, so it's that same humility that allows him to be a student of Master Piandao when he learns the sword in book 3. So It's so we're like Chad Sokka, get out of here! Like we've been waiting for humble Sokka for longer than the Avatar has been missing. Come on.
Yeah, for real. Like I do really enjoy Sokka as a character, but every time I rewatch this series, which has been quite a few times, I hate him in the beginning. I'm just like, get your life together! Come on!
Know who you are as a person. You're 15 years old. That's a lot of pressure. I'm sorry. I didn't even know myself at 15. You're doing fine, kid. I'm so sorry. I just look up to you still. Sorry, my bad.
I also really appreciate the extended world building that kind of goes on in this episode as well. Not only do we, they show us the map again, but they also show us that we get introduced to Kyoshi Village or whatever the town is called. I think it's called Kyoshi Village.
I think it's called Kyoshi Island.
Kyoshi Island, okay. Anyways, we see more creatures like the giant koi fish and the unagi and stuff like that. So there's a lot of world building that kind of goes on in this episode as well, I think.
Yeah, and Cody, tell us what you think of that fanboy.
Whoa, what? Oh, the guy who foams from his mouth. That scene is one of the most, like, I don't know, like, that scene is one of the coolest, like, I don't know, the most ridiculous scenes, but I love it so much because, it's just like my type of humor, just like to a T. Like he does, like Aang just doing crazy airbending stuff, and everybody's kind of standing around. He's like, "Oh yeah, but have you seen this?" And he does this stupid marble trick where he just spins it around in the middle of his hands, and everybody loses their shit. And one guy starts foaming from his mouth, like, oh. That's so on point with, like, my style of humor, and I love it. I love that scene so hard.
The animators be like, you want me to animate what? I want you. Creators be like, I want you to animate a man flailing his arms, foaming at the mouth.
I feel like that scene is the start of, like, oh, my cabbages.
The energy is there.
Yeah.
The energy is
totally
there.
It's the same energy, like.
Yeah, but don't you actually need, like, a medical condition to foam? Like, is he okay?
I think he's, like, possibly having a seizure. He should be in the hospital.
Except for we see him again later, and he does the same thing.
That man has a condition.
Yes.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
That's avataritis.
Okay,
I don't know what that is.
Sorry, he doesn't do the exact same thing. It's when they are doing, like, the Kyoshi investigation thing. Then they go back to the island, but Aang isn't with them, and this guy foams at the mouth, and then he realizes
like,
the avatars and he's, like, slinking away.
Oh, so it's at a different episode?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is, we see him again in the future.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
But there's more foam.
That makes me happy.
There's more foam in the future.
I'll be watching out for that because I think last time that was just like whoof, right over my head. So.
Yeah.
Oh man, some things that were nice. Man, like animated food just looks so good. So Zuko was able to learn where the Avatar was because a little girl told some fishermen. Fishermen sold some food to the Fire Nation dudes, and yeah, but like Uncle Iroh did not get to eat that fish, and that felt sad.
That did feel sad.
I did feel sad.
I'm
Like
saving it for later.
Yeah, it just takes the whole fish. Are you gonna eat a whole fish?
and I'm wondering what Iroh's mentality is at this point. It's like he's just kind of like, you know what? Like my brother who's the Fire Lord is a spaz. I'm taking care of his son now. Like, I think we should just chill. Pretty much. Like, let's have tea at the commander or the general's place. Let's eat some good fish. Like, don't worry about this Avatar nonsense right now, Zuko. Just, like, be chill. Like, let's live life. And then I don't think he's really maybe as cognizant about Zuko's destiny at this moment. I think he's more concerned about, like, recovering and,
I
just
think that's
having fun.
Something that Uncle Iroh is like throughout the show is he's very much like live your life in the moment, and that's that's something that's very like Uncle Iroh is just like live life.
I feel like I actually just had a thought as you were saying that. It's like possibly is it possible that Iroh like knows that Zuko is going to be the next Fire Lord, and he's just kind of like preparing him for that. He's training him for that. We kind of see it in the last episode a little bit when he's like, respect General Zhao or whatever. Let's have tea with him. And kind of in this episode, maybe not as much in this episode, but I don't know. It's just kind of a thought I had as you were saying that. It's like
Something-
maybe he's trying to prepare him to be the next Fire Lord.
Something along that lines that I noticed is that Iroh does not help Zuko attack this innocent village.
Yeah,
you don't
no.
see him at all.
No, you
True,
don't.
true.
You don't see him ride out on those cool Triceratops
Nope.
rhinos that the Fire Nation has. That is more cool world building, and the Fire Nations have the Fire Nation has the coolest mounts. I'm saying it. Appa's pretty cool, but there's only one of him, and the rhinos they're just badass.
No, but like that's something I noticed is like Iroh's like, all right, I'm just gonna stay on the ship. I don't want any part of this nonsense. This is an innocent village.
Well, like, because you have to assume that even at this point, he belongs to the White Lotus, right?
Oh yeah, he's belonged to the White Lotus for many years at this point.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wonder. That's actually that's a good. Like, how long has he been part of the White Lotus? Really? Because like he's known for his, like his connection to the his spirit world, and I wonder at what point Iroh was just not down. Well, I don't know. Well, the White Lotus is still very mysterious. The whole point
Yeah.
is that it's the four nations, like a bond beyond your nation, essentially. But he's done some. Like, he's done some pretty bad things, actually, like, in the name of his nation. So it's so strange. I wonder, like, if there's an origin story I want to know, is the origin of the White Lotus. Like, definitely.
I would guess that Uncle Iroh joined the White Lotus after his defeat at Ba Sing Se. After his son was killed, after he could not defeat Ba Sing Se, I would guess that he found the White Lotus and they kind of helped him through that.
I would maybe
Right.
say like not immediately, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, but like after, like
Yeah.
that would be like my thinking of the timeline is like he just lost his son. He no longer wants to be this military man.
Yeah.
So he's seeking out other peaceful people.
Yeah, and you couldn't be part of the White Lotus and then also go and attack Ba Sing Se.
Yeah. So
And I think
that would be my guess. Sorry.
it's good. Yeah, there's very much like a spiritual aspect to the White Lotus as well. So I think you want to find something that is meaningful and transcending more than like the war. And
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a cool episode for sure. I also dig just the costumes that the Kyoshi warriors.
love it.
Yeah.
I want to like wear all that. Oh my gosh.
Like, I get it, Sokka, we got your toxic masculinity. We understand you don't want to be in a dress, but man, that is a good
It
costume.
was like, yeah, like, the front armor, the gold. Okay,
Yeah.
come on.
They're kind of like warrior geishas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
I
kind of taking that super feminine role and putting it into like warrior style.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Back to the like sound design. I love the sound of the fans opening. Like, shing, oh.
Actually, that is something I paid attention to this time a lot, and I noticed it a lot. Like the music that they had during the montage when Aang's going around with all his fangirls and stuff. It was super fun and like upbeat, and like also when Aang's running on the water, the like squelchy noises. So good, so good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You know, the creators of the show did like an exceptional job, and that is why we're reviewing a children's show.
Heck yeah.
And again, that is why each of these podcast episodes is longer than the so, like
Back to the points about the world building, just how fun I feel the animals are. Just such a, like, it's never overly like in your face, like, oh, big spectacle of what an animal is. Even when Aang was there to ride the koi fish and the unagi, it was never like something you would be like really bored with, or like trying to, or like a forced world build, really. It just felt like, yeah, there's giant elephant koi, and it's part of it's ecosystem of where it is in the food chain. It's like it's underneath the giant unagi, by the way. We have those. And yeah, and like just how low key they mentioned like the rhino triceratops too. It's just there's
They just like all of a sudden are on screen.
yeah.
Here's this animal we've
that
never
unagi
mentioned.
had like 2 elephant koi fish and was still hungry for like a little human boy.
A
so
tiny
it's just
little
like
human,
I
yeah.
wonder if it was more about revenge or like
true.
territory.
Hunting? Oh yeah, wow, that's great. And also just like Aang just like yanking on its nose hairs, essentially. like, yeah, I would be crying from the mouth and the eyes too if a little kid just started like yanking at my nose hairs. And...
I thought I just had actually, and it goes to Katara saving Aang from the Unagi. Is it's kind of another representation of how, like, at first, before you've kind of mastered bending at all, it's in a very, like, an emotional thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, Aang's life is in danger. Katara's out there to save him, and it's very sudden and emotional where she pushes the water away and saves them, right?
It was do or die.
That is the thought I had that I forgot to bring up. But even when her and Aang are fighting and she's waterbending out of that bowl, when she gets really frustrated, it just falls. And she can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's something I wanted to bring up earlier. Is like, yes, you do, like, to do good bending, you need to be, like, centered and, like, calm or very emotional. Like, either bending, like, feeds off of your, like, very intense emotions, but if you want to do it intentionally, I think that you do need to be, like, calm and centered.
Yeah. Just like how Suki said that the fan is an extension of your arm, like, bending is an extension of, like, it brings out, in the essence of what's inside of you, and, like, whether it's that calm, like for Azula, it's very, in the beginning, it's very calm and calculated, precise and powerful. You see it in Zuko's movements, even when he's not fighting. It's just explosive and expressive, but also it burns out as well. So it's so cool just seeing all these details, how people's internal self affects their external world, whether it's bending or their martial arts. It's so beautiful. Oh my god. And I love that. Thank you guys for drawing attention to that. Like, Katara is on the grind with her bending. Like, she wants to understand it and what she's capable of, and that's such a good detail too. Because she got a skill glow up coming up, and I'm here for it. Let's go.
Yeah, no. So, any other kind of thoughts on this episode, The Warriors of Kyoshi?
I'm just, like, a little bit sad that Sokka had this fling with this girl and then they had to leave, because they're so cute. I love them so much together.
Cute. But you know how that turns out.
I know, but it's still sad right now.
Yeah. I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too. That's actually such an important line.
Yeah, it is, because it's showing that, like, yes, Sokka has first seen her only as a girl, and then only as a warrior when she's both.
Yeah, so you could have simultaneous things within yourself, even if it seems contradicting. Like, Sokka probably thinks he has to be, like, have all this machismo in order to be a warrior, where it's like, that's not, you're a warrior. You're a warrior because you're a warrior. It has nothing to do with how you, like, express yourself.
Masculinity.
With your masculinity or your femininity, really.
Yeah.
And to think of, like, when the show was released.
Yeah, 2005.
Like, that was, like, a pretty... It's sad to think about, but that was, like, a pretty... almost groundbreaking message at the time, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be, but it, like, kind of was at the time.
Well,
do you
like,
think it kind of helped pave a way, in a sense? Because it's something of... Like, go ahead.
It's okay. I was just going to say, like, the 90s, I watched, like, 80s and 90s movies, and that movement was very much, like, coming into light. Like, women can be other things. Women are strong. Women are powerful. But it wasn't really in a lot of TV shows or kids shows.
Yeah, I think that, like, in the early... Like, I still watch movies from the early 2000s, or I watch movies from the early 2000s sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
We've come so far in such a short period of time.
Like, wow, we couldn't say that now.
Just the perfect example is the American Pie movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, those are so ridiculous, and you could not get away with making those movies nowadays because they are, like, blatantly sexist, and, like, it's just like, and those were made in the early 2000s, the same time that this cartoon is being made, you know what I mean? So, like, I feel like the messages that this cartoon is imparting on kids, it could even, like, I don't know, I'm maybe attributing a little bit too much to Avatar, but it could have paved the way for some of the thoughts that we're even having nowadays, you know, or at least cartoons like Avatar.
Yeah, I honestly think I agree. Like, I feel like I feel like that's why it's reached such a resurgence and renaissance now. Like it's been over 15 years about, and we're still talking about it because it's relevant, and we have all these different lenses that we're able to look at it through. And I feel like this show is going to age incredibly compared to something like American Pie.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think at the essence is it's to treat people with respect, no matter what your differences are. To treat them with dignity.
And it also doesn't matter where you come from, what your power level is,
what kind of abilities
you're born with, but it's to be yourself and be the best version of yourself that you can be, and not try to emulate other people. Like, even if they are, you can learn from other people, sure, but you shouldn't try to emulate them to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
And I think, because I've had a few conversations with some people who don't exactly have the same mindset as me, but like how sometimes when they see something that's so different from the narratives that they've grown up as, like, oh, this is pandering, or oh, this is like not, like, this doesn't fit the narrative, this is more so like propaganda or whatever. I'm using air quotes, by the way. But yeah, just thinking, but showing that like your differences don't have to be a debilitating like mark on like your ability to be great. And I think I don't know, a lot of Northwestern media is just like, if you want to be strong, successful, powerful, you have to check these boxes, and that's not true. There's different forms of strength, and like, it doesn't make you any less important. And I think that's beautiful, because like what the representation we have for women in this episode, in the future, the representation for people with disabilities, it's not we're not saying that, like, a lot of past narratives have say you can't play the game because you don't check these boxes, but in a narrative like in Avatar, it says like you could play the game, but you're going to do it way different than anyone else, and that's what the world needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really cool about Avatar is that the people who are different, and maybe the people, they don't run away from their challenges or who they are. They embrace them and make them part of their life and use it in their abilities. They
lean into their differences instead of trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm mostly thinking about Toph here, but Toph like is blind. And she's a girl.
And I sorry, real quick. I just love the fact that Toph makes fun of herself for being blind.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Like,
All the time.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. But, like, she's blind and a girl, and you'd think in society that might put her at a disadvantage. But she comes up with a whole freaking new way of bending because of her so-called disability. Because she can see how things work on a different level that we can. So she just does things, and people are like, that's not possible, and she's like, watch me.
I love how in this show it always seems like the underdog is this secret powerful person who's just like, we see it with Iroh, we see it with the guy who we're going to meet in the next episode, the king of the earthbenders. Boomy. He's just so unassuming, and then he's just this buff dude underneath.
Pulls off his shirt and he's like just muscle.
We see it so many times. We see it with Toph. We see it but it's like these unassuming people end up being like, Aang is even the epitome of that. He's a child who's this little bald baby-looking child, but he's the most powerful person in the entire series. So I do appreciate that the cartoon really leans into celebrating the underdog almost.
Yeah.
Like the world would be so different. Like this whole narrative would be so different if Toph spent her whole life just feeling bad for herself and resenting and trying to see the world as everyone else does. Like if Toph just beat herself up for not having sight the way everyone else does, or if
well, we see her parents do that.
Yeah.
Like, we see Toph's parents that have viewed Toph as this
less valuable because of
disabled girl that can't do anything by herself.
Yeah, that needs looking after.
Yeah, and we see how Toph would have ended up if she thought the way that her parents thought, right?
Yeah.
We see that in the way that her parents treat her.
Which we will get into way more depth in when we come across those episodes.
Yeah. Getting ahead of ourselves.
It's all coming together. This is great. Yeah, but shout out to the Team Avatar creators for just for the representation. Honestly, this was the first spark. Maybe I don't know if they had any resistance from any network execs or anything, but it was what, girls? And then the creators low-key, oh my gosh, we got a blind girl coming next season. But
yeah, no. So I guess any
last
final
thoughts?
Oh, true.
Any final thoughts on the Warriors of Kyoshi? That was really high pitched and squeaky. Wow.
No, it's good.
When did your voice break?
I don't. What? When did it break?
Yeah.
I don't think it ever has. I'm a 30-year-old man, so.
Hey, it's okay. We just learned about
Yeah. Hey, I'm embracing it, man. I podcast.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So
Cool.
You guys are good.
Embrace who you are.
Embrace who you are.
Yeah, it's good, and even if you don't see your worth, other people will. Mm-hmm. And so you should lean into who you are.
I think.
Oh my gosh, I actually have more. I just forgot. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, and I think that this TV show really kind of encapsulates that. Is just be the person who you are. Don't try to be somebody you're not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I swear I was saving this, but we see Aang's relationship. I feel like Aang had a defining moment with his relationship with risk. Before he was just doing these reckless things, riding the koi fish, and then finding the unagi and trying to bait out the unagi just for the lols and the shits and giggles, really. But I think he's getting a sense of he's starting to immerse himself into the world as it is now. His actions has consequences, and it's okay to take risks, but also it's better if it's for the betterment of the world, really. He jumped off of Appa so that he could wrestle with the unagi, which is his own risk, so that he could make the world better by saving Kyoshi's village, by putting out the fires. So I feel like this was a moment for Aang to being more serious. So that was my final thought.
That's a good thought.
Yeah, I would
I
definitely agree with that for sure. The whole thing with at the beginning we see him playing around with the unagi and the giant koi fish and stuff like that, and it's fine. But then and he wants to stay in the village. He's like, why would we leave? And then we see him. He almost dies from the unagi, and also he endangers the village. So I think that's a very good point, actually. And I'm actually kind of interested to continue watching the next episodes with that in mind.
Yeah. And the next episode, we meet the really cool Boomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's my Earthbending Roots likes that episode.
Personally, I see the Boomy episode as it happened. But I'm really glad you're excited about it.
I just like Earthbending. I think it's neat.
It's beautiful. Boomy's a beautiful bender as well, and I like the subversion of expectations there. So, so
cool. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of the Last Podbender.
I'm Tierra Penner.
Whoa! I was just gonna say we're having. You jumped the gun.
I was trying to.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say we're having a lot of fun with this.
We are.
It's been a really good time, and I hope that you're enjoying listening as much as we are recording it. Because, man, I'm super excited about doing this. This is such a fun project. So I hope you enjoy listening. And I'm Cody Smith.
Oh, I'm Timothy Ocampo.
And I'm Tierra Penner.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Stay hot people.
If If you liked this episode of the podcast, why not leave a review? Whether you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcast, whatever podcatcher you may be listening on, ratings and reviews are huge. They help us to break through those evil algorithms, and it will help us to reach the most amount of glorious Avatar fans that we can possibly reach. If you would like up-to-date information regarding this podcast, follow us on Instagram. You can find us at the.last.podbender on Instagram. If you would like more information about all of the shows that Froggy Style Productions produces, including this one, follow them on social media, and you can find them at Froggy Style Productions on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For more ways in which you can support the show, visit fsproductions.ca.